Experience gorgeous, lasting, high-quality hair color with Madison Reed. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code RADIO10.
3 weeks of good luck. If you rub Uncle Dale's Power Stash, you got to find him in Austin, though. You really do. That's the key there. Hey, Cedric, nice to have you back. River Dogma, good to see you. The gorgeous and stunning Kara McIver from Saskatchewan. How are you? Smoky Mountain Wanderer, thanks for coming on in. Fedora John, nice to have you here as we continue our roll call. King Anthony, how you doing, man? Good to see you. And there's my buddy Michael Smith. Ivy Gold, good to see you. And Tiki Lord, what's happening? Welcome to our channel. Thanks for joining us. The gorgeous Jenster from Twitter is here, everyone. And we continue on. Gorgeous Larry, what's happening, man? And we are all caught up. We are all caught up. Remember, a great way to support this show is through the Super Chat. If you are new, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. And we love the fact that you guys are all here. Hi, Blue Book. How you doing, buddy? And, of course, if you're a veteran, thank you so much for your service and time. You always have a home here at Spaced Out Radio. Get your horns up. Let's do this thing right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Check out our swag, rock out to Bumblefoot, and read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are taking a trip back in time tonight as we are going to look back in 1897. Not 1987, even though that was long ago. 1897. Because allegedly, there was a UFO crash in Aurora, Texas. Yes, this was a scene where farmers saw this bright light in the sky, and then it clipped a windmill and smashed into the ground. Describing this story tonight, we have author Kerry Trent Haggard. He has a book out called Traveler, which is kind of a fiction, non-fiction book about this crash. And you know, one of these things that we're always talking about in the whole disclosure movement right now is what is happening with all of these so-called crash saucers. Have we retrieved any of them? If we have, where are the parts? Where are the parts? Let's bring in our guest tonight as we are thankful to bring Kerry Trent Haggard on to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Kerry, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm delighted to be there.
Well, we're glad to have you here myself, my friend, and thank you so much for taking us back in history tonight. Before we take our journey back into the Aurora crash, let's learn a little bit about you. Give us a detailed answer about how you got into UFOs. What sparked your interest in this topic?
Well, when I was 9 years old, I saw where a UFO had landed in my hometown of Commerce, Georgia. As a matter of fact, my mom worked for the medical center clinic. My dad worked for the police department, and there was an incident. There had been this was during the great UFO wave of 1973. There had been reports for weeks of UFOs flying around, and then there was frantic calls coming into the police department one night that one had landed at the local medical center clinic, which is right beside the hospital. So me and my mom went tearing over there, and there was no UFO. It had left, but there was a 12-foot smoking circle in the parking lot with metal drops all the way around it, where the UFO obviously had landed and taken back off again. So, like I said, it left round metallic drops, looked like lead, melted into the asphalt.
Wow. As a kid, what was it like to see that?
Well, it made me a believer. There was a fire truck and a police car and two or three other locals that had scanners at the time. We called them scanners at the time, police band radio. And they had come over to see what was going on too. And obviously, just before we got there, it had left again. But now, from that moment on, I was sold. I bought every book I could on Roswell and the UFO phenomenon and read it. And then that was basically it. I didn't really get into the UFO genre that much. I was determined to do antique cars. I bought and sold and restored antique cars for a long time. But then I heard about the Aurora crash, and several years later, I decided to get into this and write this book, a fictional hunt for the alien 100 years later. But yet I did a lot of research on Aurora and tried to keep as much historical fact as I could to let people know what really happened there.
Okay, so going back as a kid, when your mom said, let's go, now were you initiating mom to take you there, or was mom just as interested and said, son, let's get in the car and check this out?
I was jumping up and down. Here I am, a little 9-year-old kid, and I'm hearing this, and I'm literally jumping up and down. We're all glued to this scanner because these calls that were coming in the police department were frantic, and my dad had that thing running day and night, so we heard it from early in the evening when it was spotted going by until there was reports of a fiery object landing. So but she didn't hesitate. She was like, "Okay, let's go see what's going on."
Wow, you're lucky to have a mom like that, because many people would have literally have said, let's get in the basement, let's go hide. We don't want them aliens coming in here to get us.
Right. Oh, I know. And here I'm going to try to show you is. This is the parking lot where it landed. If you see right there where I'm scrolling around.
Right. So we have a parking lot of a couple of buildings there.
Yeah. The hospital's over here. The medical center clinic's here. At the time, this was a pharmacy. Right there is where the burnt circle was. And true to form, 2 days later, in the middle of the night, they came in there. I say someone came in there and repaved the parking lot, the entire parking lot. They put a whole new coat of asphalt on it because it was really drawing too much attention. People were coming from all over to see this circle.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Don't need a hospital being a tourism attraction. What during that time with this sighting, what year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
1973.
Oh, the year I was born. Holy cow. So we're going back 48 years. And with that, what kind of craft were people seeing that was flying around and then eventually landed?
Your typical saucer type craft is what had been reported in our area. There was also a landing in Danielsville, Georgia that's documented. And it happened at exactly the same time. I mean, it was like a week or two before or after. So there was lots of activity in northeast Georgia at that time, just like there was around the country.
Okay. So how many people witnessed this event?
Uh, Evidently, a half a dozen or more locals saw it because they had 4, 5, 6, 7 frantic calls come in. As far as the circle in the parking lot, I'm guessing there was 9 people there, including the fire department and the police officer.
No kidding. What was now as a kid? Do you remember what the police and the fire fighters were doing at that point?
They just shrugged their shoulders. What else could they do? What could anybody say? You got this giant circle that's red hot, that has no explanation. You have all these phone calls of a flying saucer landing at the local hospital. You can, if you use your imagination, there's really only one answer.
I just can't believe an alien craft would choose to land in between a couple of buildings on hospital grounds when it could have chosen a park, an airport, a shopping mall, the 7-Eleven. It could have gone absolutely anywhere. I mean, a hospital. That's awfully weird.
And it didn't land there. It couldn't have been there more than 5 minutes, because we were literally 5 minutes away. Maybe 8 minutes away, and by the time we got there, it was gone. So it was a quick down and back up again for whatever reason.
Now, did anybody see any aliens? Did a door open? Did anybody get out in that landing?
Nothing like that was reported. Nothing like that was ever reported, and it was in the local newspaper, and the entire area talked about it for months after that.
I bet
that was never said. So no.
So I mean, growing up, you go to school the next day, and you're trying to figure everything out. I mean, was this the hot topic of the day? What were the other kids saying?
It was the hot topic of the day. I don't remember specifics, but it was the hot topic of the day. And it was really when my mother went back to work, it was all the buzz.
I could just imagine what it's like, trying to go through there. What were people in town back in the time saying about this?
Well, that was before there was a lot of information out there on UFOs and Roswell and various things. They really kind of sort of didn't know what to think. These UFO calls and sightings were becoming real common in the area.
Really? Well, what do you think was leading to that? Were there any natural resources around there? Any volcanoes? Any type of military bases?
Nothing like that. Commerce, Georgia is a little bitty peanut town with about 4 red lights. No.
Literally,
nothing like that.
Literally sounds like my town where I am right now. We got 4 streetlights.
Yeah, that's about it. And there was nothing of any interest to extraterrestrials in that area, but there was a lot of buzz in that county and surrounding counties of UFO activity flying just literally feet above people's homes, going slow, obviously looking around. If for any other way to say it, they were just seeing what was there.
Mm-hmm. Was this an isolated incident for the community, or did the UFOs continue before this incident and after this incident?
Yes. Well, this was one of several incidents. I know of 4 or 5 touchdown spots in that area during that time. No. Again, there was one in Danielsville, Georgia, where it landed in the middle of the road. If you type in Danielsville, Georgia UFO landing, it shows pictures and it's in the newspaper and there's all kinds of documentation on it. And Danielsville, Georgia, was 12 miles away. So there was reports in various different places at the time.
And you talked about the UFO heat wave the UFO wave that was going on at that time. Where I know it was right across the United States in the early 70s, where people were having all sorts of reports of unidentified aerial phenomena happening. So for you, being a part of this and kind of being a witness on this, how did that make you feel as a young lad growing up now, wondering what's out there, what's above the stars?
Well, it more or less scared me to death. My mom said for a week I couldn't sleep at night. So it was eye opening.
Why weren't you sleeping?
Well, you witness something like that, it has a detrimental effect on you. The thought that what if it's coming to get me? What if it lands in my backyard at the time? Of course, I'm 9 years old, but so it was groundbreaking.
Okay, I want to ask you that, because that's a little bit of an interesting question to ask here. Is the fact that because this was happening and you guys kind of got close, and this is now hitting close to home. Did any of you, maybe your parents, yourself, or anybody that you knew, have some sort of emergency ET landing program that you were going to follow in case the aliens came to get you?
Well, I wasn't privy to anything like that, and my dad worked for the police department, and he wasn't privy to anything like that. But I don't know whether the military was called in to investigate. I don't know who ordered this parking lot to be repaid on a Saturday night into Sunday morning while no one was around to see it going on. I just know that's the facts from my recollection and local newspapers at the time that reported on it.
So growing up in that type of environment where this has happened, when did it all of a sudden just come to an end?
It eventually faded away. I mean, it really didn't take long for people to move on and not even talk about it anymore. I do know when I was writing this book and I reached out to a few people back there, one lady came back and said, yeah, her husband was at Parm's restaurant when the thing flew over, came gliding over the restaurant. That restaurant is about 1 mile from the hospital. So him and a group of guys that were coming out of the restaurant saw it go over as it went to the hospital and landed.
Wow. I just cannot imagine what it would be like living in small town America having this happen. Did anybody try to capture it? Did anybody get photographs of it? Did anybody try to shoot it down?
None of that.
I'm surprised there's not a photo of it.
No photo. It was dark. It was night. And again, there was, the few people that called in, there just wasn't time. From the time they called it in that something had landed, these people were seeing this from their homes in the area. I have no explanation as to how long it stayed on the ground. It stayed on the ground just long enough to make its imprint, and then it was gone. Why it landed, I have no explanation for any of that.
Did the military come to town after this?
Didn't see anything like that. But again, I was a kid. My memory of it is about this big. So I don't know. Could they have went to the local authorities and discussed this? Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, because normally we hear these situations where all of a sudden the U.S. military, they bring in the Army or something along those lines to investigate or to cordon off areas where there is. But I mean, like you said, the strangeness of it with everything was the fact that within days of this happening, they went and repaved over that spot.
Yes, they did, and that was literally the end of it when they did that, and that was just 2 or 3 days later, 2 or 3 nights later, because I'm sure it was drawing way too much attention for somebody to be comfortable with it. So once that was over, everybody moved on. You hardly heard anything else about it after that.
Were citizens upset with the fact that, here you have this earth-shattering event, and all of a sudden people are trying to cover it up like, hey, we don't want people coming here. We're going to pave over it. Because government officials back then, they played by a different set of rules than they do now.
Right. I think more or less people were like, okay, we probably shouldn't talk about this. And they didn't.
Okay. Joe wants to know if anybody after this reported being abducted or seeing any type of extraterrestrial.
No. Not to my knowledge.
Just one of those mysteries. One of those mysteries. So as
one of the mysteries that I happen to get of maybe in its truest form, but the aftermath for.
All right, you've kind of frozen up a little bit on us here, Kerry. I think we're getting you back here.
Are we there?
Yeah, there we are. We're almost there with you. It'll come back here in a quick second. But I think what you were trying to say, it was one of those really cool times in history, not only for you, but for...
Gym sessions and sweaty summer activities are back, which means more funky smells in your clothes, because sweat leaves behind bacteria that causes those hard-to-remove odors. Clorox fabric sanitizer products are ready to zap the stink out of fabrics in your home by getting rid of 99.9% of odor-causing bacteria. Eliminate odors in every load, or sanitize fabrics between washes with one of our fabric sanitizer products. Search fabric sanitizer at Clorox.com to learn more. When it counts, trust Clorox. Use as directed.
Experience gorgeous, lasting, high-quality hair color with Madison Reed. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code RADIO10.
But for your town as well, growing up in, because it really kind of set the stage for having an open mind towards this entire phenomena.
Correct.
Okay, so as we got about 2 minutes here to go before we get to the bottom of the hour, how did this kind of, affect you growing up from there on?
Well, I say it made me a believer. It confirmed, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are not alone to me. And I have lived my whole life. Anybody that ever asked me, did I believe in UFOs? My answer was a definitive yes. I wouldn't go into this every time someone asked, but I always had it in my mind that I was very close to the to an incident and actually got to witness the aftermath of it.
I can see that. So you having this firm belief since childhood that UFOs are real, had you seen other craft since then?
No. I mean, I say no. You see so many strange lights in the sky, but how do you know what's one and what's not? I'm not one of these that bought a telescope and look at all that. But it did confirm all this to me, so that's why I'm interested in it, because I know it's true.
Well, when you have something that close happen to you, it affects everything. It kind of puts a drive in you for the remainder of your life, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It stays with you forever.
It truly does. It truly does. We got about 40 seconds left here Kerry, pardon me, as we get ready to go to break at the bottom of the hour. For people who've never had a situation like this happen, what's some advice you give them?
Keep an open mind. Don't panic. Just realize that the universe is very large and that we are not the only ones in it.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. When we come back on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to get into it with Kerry Trent Haggard. We're going to get into Aurora. What happened in 1897? We're going back to the 19th century, people. The 19th century, late in the year. Did a UFO crash in Aurora, Texas? We're going to check it on out. Author Kerry Trent Haggard is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio, breaking it all down for us. We'll be back on the mighty SOR right after this. All right, my friend, we're clear.
Good. So how are we doing there?
Not too bad so far. I'm going to ask you a big, giant favor for me, man. Moving on up here. 1 to 2 word answers don't work on the radio.
Okay.
So I need you, don't tell me the sky is blue, man. I want to know about those clouds. I want to know about the deer on the pasture. Okay? Just help me out here and really describe it. That's how we're going to really blend the audience in and really captivate and motivate them, man.
That's good. That's good. And what I've done is I've pulled up a whole bunch of pictures. So sometimes as we're talking about things, I'm going to turn the camera around to show them images, if that's all right.
That is completely perfect. But I need you to remember we're also on a radio audience too. So they're not seeing the pictures. So we're going to have to describe what we're looking at here. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's perfect.
As we're talking about it, I may just, I'm not going to say, well, here's the image of this or here's the image of that. I'll just turn it around and the image will be there, Yeah,
that works, man. Just as long as we can get some detailed conversation, man. We'll paint some really cool pictures for our audience and kind of go from there.
That sounds fine.
Mm-hmm. We got about 4 minutes here, man. All right. R&R, welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, if you haven't already. Ring the bell as well. Beelzebrad, how are you, man? Good to see you. Thank you, Chad Smith. I'm Chad Smith, by the way. Tonight, I am Chad Smith. It's a nice ceiling fan you got there.
Oh, well, yeah. I laid you down for a second.
I'm just teasing. All right. High Rooted and Gorgeous Sacredness, thank you for joining us. Hi, Oracles. Good to see you, man. America's Quilt. Nice to have you here. Gorgeous Carla. Nice to see you. Yeah, I was trying to support... it was election day here in Canada. And wasted millions of dollars on an election that pretty much stayed the same. Because the people of Ontario and the Maritimes obviously don't care about the rest of Canada.
Sounds like the very thing California just did.
Yeah. Sinister Vax, how you doing? Video game player, good to see you. And let's see, who else we got here? Terry Brown apparently is now Chad Smith. Jim Sapp says, I saw Chad Smith by my dumpster. He had glowing red eyes and stared at me, then ran away into the woods. Oh, that's a scary Chad Smith happening right there. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Let's see, who else we got here? Jazz says Chad Smith is my father. Yep, Chris Mo, that's for sure. Fedora John does our thumbnails right now. Tessa in Australia, thank you for joining us, and thank you for that lovely super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you. The gorgeous and talented Tessa right there. And remember, the Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to Tessa, to Ed Clater, and to Noble Patrick for the Super Chats tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the veterans listening to our show. You always have a home here, and we're going to get going right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you tuning us in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with author Kerry Trent Haggard. He's got a book out called Traveler. This goes back in history to the year 1897. It was April 17th. It was a Saturday when allegedly the North Texas town of Aurora witnessed something completely spectacular. A UFO seeming to fly uncontrolled ends up crashing into a windmill tower and then into the ground. Kerry, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Very good. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here too. Now, when you write a story like this, oh, by the way, I didn't realize you were from Beaver County, Pennsylvania. I've been there.
Okay.
4 times. 4 times I've been there. They got a great little bar there called Thursdays. I've been there. Anyways, moving on. I just noticed that. Beautiful area, by the way. And the train bridge, the 100-and-some-year-old train bridge that rolls through there. Beautiful. Anyways, moving on. You have to be a little bit of a historian to go through something like this. So take us back to Aurora in 1897. What happened?
The biggest act at the time there was crop failure and disease. The town was more or less decimated. And then on the morning of April 17th, 1897, a single alien craft came hovering by, clipped a fast-moving windmill, and slammed into the local water tower. It set the town on its ear. They didn't know quite what to do and how to do with a incident of this kind, but they did the best that they could.
Okay. So had that area been having UFO sightings previous to that?
Yes, they had. There had been a lot of UFO sightings from San Francisco all the way to Louisiana. Same form, cigar-shaped objects, saucer-shaped objects, hovering by it was a huge time. They called that the Great UFO Wave of 1896-97.
Where were these sightings happening?
All over. As a matter of fact, I'm opening up my book, and I was going to read you a small passage from
Please do.
of one of the sightings. According to the 1897 Farmer's Almanac, between April 13th and 17th, there were over 38 reported airship sightings in 23 north central Texas counties alone. And in the second half of the 19th century, the American Old West, these types of encounters were becoming common.
Wow. So this was almost like everyday sightings for farmers and villagers in that area.
Yes, they was a lot of that kind of thing going on, and it was in the newspapers. They had hundreds of articles in the newspapers at the time, reporting sightings here and sightings there, and strange objects in the sky, strange lights in the sky. So it was not an isolated incident. There was a lot of that going on back then. It seems like these kind of things go in waves. There's a year or two where there's a lot of activity, and then you may go 10 years with very little activity.
Wow. Okay. So what kind of craft were people seeing back then?
A lot of them describe, back then they didn't have the word flying saucer, hadn't been coined. So these people of the Old West used terms that were familiar to them. They would call them cigars. They would call them bowls. They would call them flying spoon, because that's what they could relate with. They didn't have any technical terms. They were just relating it to something that affected their everyday life that they saw flying around up in the air.
Why did this all of a sudden feel like, for these people at the time, that it almost felt natural to see these craft?
Yeah, I guess because there was so much of it that it had become common.
I just can't imagine UFOs being common. I mean, this is before flight, before the Wright brothers, before everything. I mean, to look up in the sky and see these craft up there. I mean, was this not scaring anybody when this was happening?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was frightening these people of the time. And they didn't even know what to think. They, in the 1897 Dallas Morning News, this incident in Aurora, they called the guy somebody from Mars. They didn't know anything else to call him. They said that he was a inhabitant of the planet Mars.
So they were having ET contact.
Yeah, they obviously were. There's several incidents in here where they saw flying saucers. Here's a good one for you. The most startling November sighting of 1897 came near Lodi, California, on November 25th, when Colonel H.G. Shaw, traveling in his horse-drawn carriage, came upon three hairless beings. They had tiny ears and stood in the road while their huge cigar-shaped craft hovered behind them over a lake. When asking where they were from, Shaw had reported to have been unable to understand their warbling chant, but each had a bag under their arm the size of a hen's egg, emitting an intense light. After a time, the three walked rapidly toward their ship, crawled on board, and disappeared out of sight.
Okay, so as we're having these experiences, what was the attitude of the people back then? What were they like? Were they just simple farmers? Were they uneducated people? Were they people of religion and very God-fearing? What were they like back then?
Yes, they're definitely God-fearing people. I wouldn't say uneducated. They were farmers. They were sheriffs. They were cattle people. They just were making an honest living for themselves. But boy, yeah, they were God-fearing, and for this to happen was very upsetting to them.
Now, why was that upsetting for them?
Well, to see these beings that are from another world, and it's very obvious they're from another world. It's very obvious they're not from this world. Was quite startling for them, just like it would be for anybody today.
So with these communities, these very small farming communities, and let's face it, farmers are very superstitious people. Did they think that they had done something wrong to cause these extraterrestrial type of contacts?
I think more than what they feared doing something wrong, I think they feared, okay, are they coming back? Was this just a one-time incident, or are they coming back to get us? I think it was more that than fearing what they had did to deserve this.
Okay, so if it was fearing at the time, what were they fearing? Were they fearing their own sanity? Were they fearing their own lives?
I would say they were fearing their lives more than anything.
Okay, so being that, this is old school, where you work hard on the farm 16, 18 hours a day, tend to the crops, tend to the animals. The Sunday is a Sabbath for rest and family time. How much was this UFO wave at that time really throwing the everyday routine out of whack?
Well, it was definitely a gathering for them to come to Aurora and see the remains of the crash. So they were bent all out of shape about this, which like anybody would be today. They just they had a hard time believing that this was actually something that is going on. But when these cowboys are riding along on their horses and they see these craft flying through the air when nothing at the time could fly but birds, it's pretty daunting that they're not just imagining this.
Were animals being mutilated back then in the area?
I do not know that. I don't have any knowledge of that at all.
No problem, because a lot of farms who seem to have these UFO problems usually lead up to having some sort of problem with any sort of cattle or animal mutilation. So that's why I asked the question there. But all right, so that day with that craft, what kind of day was it?
It was early in the morning. The sun was just coming up, and it was a clear day. It wasn't cloudy. It was just your typical day in April.
Okay, so a nice spring day. Crops are starting to turn and starting to grow at that time. And then what did people see happen?
It was reported that there was a young boy helping his dad in the garden. They started work as soon as the sun came up, and he saw this.
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
Craft come roaring overhead with black smoke trailing it, and it went over the rise and slammed into a windmill and then crashed into a water tower, and the craft and the water tower came raining down. So it was a devastating event. Woke everybody up. All the noise and the crash and the boom. People reported most people reported hearing it rather than seeing it. There were 1 or 2 that saw it, and then everybody, of course, came running over to see what had happened.
Was there a fire that broke out because of this?
A lot of smoke, maybe some small fires. Nothing major because of this. No.
Okay, so here we have this smoking craft. Did it bounce along the ground, or did it crash right in?
It slammed into the side of the windmill and exploded. The the water tower. It slammed into the side of the water tower and exploded. There was just bits and pieces everywhere after this.
So with all that debris that happened, how many lived in that area where there was this crash site?
I think there was about 600 people that lived in the Aurora area at that time.
Okay, and of those 600, how many witnessed it?
About 4 witnessed the crash. There were hundreds of people that came from all surrounding parts of the area to see what had transpired. And just imagine the sight of all these people watching as horses and carriage draws the remains of that ship through their town. They'd never seen anything like that in their lives, and probably never would again.
So what did the ship look like?
It was called a cigar-shaped object, but my belief is that it was oblong, egg-shaped, and probably 20 to 30 feet at its longest point.
And how tall was it?
I don't know that. Interesting point about this is it's reported that they put the alien up on the boardwalk of town and took photographs with him. The local doctor examined him and realized that he was not of this world, and so they put him in a coffin and put him on display, just like they would a popular cowboy of the time, for people to see.
Was there only one alien on board?
On a single alien craft. One alien, just one person in it. And a small being, hairless, typical description of a gray, that they found in the wreckage.
And the alien was dead.
He was dead. He was killed from the impact.
Was there any? Do we know if there was any reports of, like, medical reports of if there was any scarring or any sort of marks on its body?
Well, he was burnt pretty bad. He was mangled pretty bad when they pulled him out of the wreckage. I mean, a huge explosion, so he didn't fare very well. The descriptions in the paper said that he was examined by the local doctor, and they sort of mentioned his sizes and that kind of thing.
What was his size?
He was small, 4 to 5 feet tall, more between 4 and 5 feet tall. Large head, large eyes, slits for ears, slits for a nose. It's the same description of a gray that you would have even today. The small gray aliens. And one thing that was noted was that his skin was scaly.
Almost reptilian.
Yes.
What color was he?
I would say on the off-white, gray, light colored.
Did they ever report any kind of odor?
You know, it does seem to me that in my research I saw one small tidbit about that. I don't know anything in detail, but I think that did come up once.
So here they take the alien and they kind of strut the alien body through town. Were there any true photographs of this outside of sketchings?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because when I started writing this book, I had a conversation or two on the phone with Jim Mars, who was a great ufologist and had probably did more research and knew more about the Aurora incident than anyone else. And this was very late in his life, but just before he died, actually. And I told him I was writing a book on a novel on the Aurora alien crash, and he was thrilled that somebody was doing something to get some popularity and some notoriety to the Aurora incident rather than the Roswell incident. 50 years before the Roswell incident, this happened, but hardly anybody's ever heard of this one. And he said an interesting tidbit on his end. He had been contacted by some people whose grandmother swore that she had a tintype, a tin plate photograph of this alien on the boardwalk in his coffin with townspeople around him. He was on the hunt for that to try to see it or obtain it the last time that I talked to him. And I never heard back from him because, of course, he died. So I don't know if he ever obtained that, never got to that, ever saw that. But he was on the hunt for that when I spoke to him.
How do you dig up information on this case now, considering it's 117 years old almost?
Well, he started. He was one of the ones in 1973 that were on the scene because he lived in Fort Worth. He lived in the area. The whole Aurora thing had been totally forgotten until 1970 something, when UPI ran a story on a small Texas town that had an alien buried in their graveyard. So it really went nationwide, and UFO hunters were flocking to Aurora with picks and shovels and determined to dig him up. They had to put armed guards in the Aurora cemetery to keep grave diggers away at night. So everybody converged on Aurora when this story came to light again, and he was one of the ones that was over there trying to investigate it. The alien's tombstone was stolen. His original 1897 tombstone was stolen during this time. It was really an exciting, and I say exciting, it was a tumultuous time for the town because Aurora is very, very small. I think even today, 400 or 500 people live in the whole area. So when this came to light and all these people came over, it really upset them. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want all these people around. But a lot of them did have knowledge from their grandparents that this incident happened way back when.
Well, on that note, we got to get ready to go for a break here at the top of the hour because I'll tell you, we're going to find out when we come back with Kerry Trent Haggard, author of Traveler, about the 1897 Aurora UFO crash case. We're going to find out if there's still an alien body buried somewhere in Aurora. Could you imagine? Grave robbers may have already got it. The government may have already got it. Or maybe, just maybe, that body is still in Aurora in an unmarked grave. Maybe we know. Maybe we don't. Maybe Kerry knows. We're going to find out. 1 hour down. 2 hours to go here on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We're talking the Aurora UFO crash with author Kerry Trent Haggard when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. So stay tuned. All right, my friend, I'm just going to take a bathroom break. We'll be right back, okay?
Very good.
All right, I'm just going to mute your mic. I'll go there. I'll be right back, people. Hi, Ozzy Steve. How you doing? The gorgeous Eva, how are you? Who else is back here? Let's see. Who else has joined us? Triple Tom, what's happening, man? Good to see you. Harry Balls, what's happening? Let's see, who else is here? The gorgeous Teresa. Hi, Shar, how are you? Good to see you. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. There we go. Thank you, Clam, for the password. We got about 45 seconds, my friend. Gorgeous Elaine, how are you? Good to see you. 20 seconds. Big thank you. Hey, Jeff Steve Garvey. Big thank you to Black Dragon, Tessa, Ed Clater, and Noble Patrick for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in, and of course all our regulars in the chat room. We absolutely love you, and we'll continue on right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on our planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yoicks! Yoicks is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking about the 1897 Aurora, Texas UFO crash. Now, witnesses to that case believe that a UFO came screeching out of the sky, clipped a windmill, blew up, and crashed into the ground. And talking to us about this tonight, from the book Traveler, author Kerry Trent Haggard. Kerry, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, right before the break, you started talking about the body of this alien that was found. A scaly type of gray, black eyes, and real freaky looking, and it was burnt up a little bit from the crash. Take it from there.
Yeah, they described him as 4 to 5 feet tall, wearing a highly metallic, they didn't call it metallic at the time, highly shiny uniform, one piece. They couldn't figure out how he got into it because there was no buttons, no zippers. Large eyes, small nose, slits for ears, your typical description of an alien gray. He was badly mangled in the crash, and they built a homemade coffin for him and put him on display on the boardwalk because he was such an attraction. This wasn't an uncommon thing for him to do at the time. If a cowboy, especially somebody famous, rolled into town and got killed, they put him on the boardwalk, and people came from all over to see. So with this guy, news spread quickly, and people were coming in from all over the county to see the remains of his ship and him.
Really? How long was he on display for?
How long was he on display for? Now that I don't know. I know they put him in the ground pretty quickly because there was a mention of a highly toxic odor. So they, I would say probably for an afternoon, they had him on display. It's also rumored that
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
they took photographs of him and some local officials, like the sheriff and the doctor, and which is very possible because there were Kodak cameras back then that took tin plate photographs and glass plate photographs. They didn't call them photographs; they called them derogagraphs or something like that.
Do any of those photos still exist?
Well, as I was talking before, no one has ever shown one. I have some recreated ones that are in my book, but Jim Mars, who lived in the area and was one of the real prominent historians on the Aurora crash, told me before he died that he was on the trail of finding an original tin plate of the boardwalk, the alien of the time. Some old grandmother had it and didn't want to part with it because she was afraid to, for whatever reason. But he had been contacted by the family and wanted to know if he was interested in seeing it. Obviously, they found out he was a historian with that incident. He died after that conversation, so I do not know if he ever was able to see it or acquire it.
And that's the only copy known in existence.
That I've ever heard about.
Do you think the U.S. government has any of those photos stored away?
You know, that's a good question. In 1897, the U.S. government wasn't like they are now toward this. I don't know. To be honest with you, I would not doubt if there are a couple of these original tin plate images still around in somebody's attic or steamer trunk or in some family collection that they don't talk about it and they certainly wouldn't part with it. But do I know that for a fact? No. Is there any been any public sharing of one of these photographs? Not to my knowledge.
No kidding. The alien that landed there, when they buried him, where did they put the body?
They buried him in the local cemetery. He is still there today. There have been ground penetrating radar that shows a badly decomposed small being where he was buried. There have been rumors and reports that the government dug him up, and I don't believe that. I've been to Aurora. I visited Aurora a couple years ago, and I saw where his grave is. I know a couple of the people out there really well, and they honestly believe that he is still there. He had an original gravestone from 1897. It's been stolen. They did a replacement in the 1970s. It's been stolen. So today, a big round rock marks the spot where he is buried. And people visit that site almost daily, leaving all kinds of things. They leave coins, they leave trinkets, they leave little alien toys, they leave sympathy cards. So it's probably the only attraction in Aurora, Texas.
Why hasn't anybody exhumed this body?
Because the officials do not want people in there digging up their graveyard, digging up their ancestors. Do they think that's him? Yes. Do they know for a fact it's him? No. So they have no intention of letting anyone go in there and dig. They wanted to dig it up in 1973 when the story finally gained notoriety. It had been quiet for decades, and then in 1973, the United Press ran a story that there was an alien being buried in a small Texas cemetery, and that really got the controversy all stirred up again. Aurora at that time wanted no part of it. It was a long kept secret to the locals there, and especially to the old locals there, whose grandmother swore that they saw this or they saw that. So Aurora really had no part of this for a long, long time. Now they're actually starting to capitalize on it a little bit. They have a little park with a monument marking the site just down the road from where it happened, and they have a little alien in a ship that they put on display, and a little windmill. I mean, they're just now starting to get comfortable with it.
Why was the town so uncomfortable with what had happened for so long?
Well, anything out of the ordinary scares people like that to death. They're simple, hardworking people that didn't want a lot of publicity about this, didn't want people to laugh at them because they didn't believe it, didn't want people in there digging up their graveyard. So the best thing they could do was not talk about it. And so therefore, a long, long time, they didn't. There is a plaque that was placed in the 70s in front of the cemetery, and it reads that a alien crashed at this site in 1897 and is buried in this cemetery. That was placed there by the Texas Historical Society. So, obviously somebody believed it enough to write that on their monument plaque.
I see. Okay. So what happened to the wreckage of this craft?
It was hauled through town by horse and cart, and then they didn't know what to do with it, so they dumped it in an old abandoned water well.
Has that old abandoned water well ever been found?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's on there was a judge at the time, Judge Proctor. He owned the property that the windmill and the water tower was on. So it was his property that they drug it to and dumped it down the water well, and then they covered it up. It has been excavated. There's actually a couple of episodes on UFO Hunters, I believe, where they go out and they dig up they open up the well and they look around, and all they found was a bunch of snakes. There was a guy that bought that property in the 50s, and the water from the well, which he drank, made him extremely sick and gave him very bad crippling arthritis. So reports are that he had the well cleaned out and the wreckage was taken to a dump or something, but it's gone.
So much potential evidence and nothing can be done about it. I mean, who takes a potential UFO and hauls it off to the dump?
I know. It seems like that's always the case. A little too late, a little too, it seems like everything just has a way of getting away from us. And just like that. Now, they have found very small fragments of a metal in that well and in that area that they can't account for. Its structure is strange, let's say. And again, there have been UFO shows on that repeatedly. I'm not. I don't know a whole lot about it, but they have found some small fragments. Nothing major, nothing big. But the ship did explode when it hit the water tower, so there wasn't a whole lot left of it.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, does anybody have any of these fragments lying around that could be tested from this?
I wouldn't be surprised if the people in Wise County, that which is the Aurora area, have multiple fragments from the time, because people were taking fragments as souvenirs when this happened. That was reported. But especially today, with the way the government is and the cover-ups are, they're not going to put out that they have a piece of a UFO for somebody to come and take it away from them that's been in their family for 120 years. Would I be surprised if local families have some put away somewhere? I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Has the military ever come into town looking for those fragments or even the wreckage?
I don't know that directly. I would not be surprised if they've been there doing some research into the incident and seeing if there was any evidence they could confiscate. But it's been so long, there's really nothing left. If there's anything left, nobody is talking about it.
So basically the entire craft has been pillaged. The town has agreed somehow to leave the body there without even allowing the government to come in, the federal government, that is, to come in and exhume the body to see if it actually is of alien descent.
Yes, the city council has no intentions of letting anybody dig around in that cemetery, and like I said, they have done ground penetrating radar, and there is a small body buried there, but it's so badly decomposed there would really be nothing to dig up. I mean, 120 years later, put in an old wooden box and put in the ground, it's more or less gone. But they do know exactly where the site is. Like I said, I visited it, and it's there, and it's a very popular site for UFO fans that pass through the area to go and see it.
No, I understand that, and I appreciate that. But you'd think that even after 120 years, you might be able, if exhumed, to pull some sort of DNA out of it.
Possibly. I don't know. That's way beyond me.
Has there ever been talk in recent years about exhuming the body?
I don't know. I would say no, because they're not going to allow it. The city council is not going to allow it. I have a friend that lives pretty close to that area, and he's real chummy with those people in Aurora. And that's something that they're never going to stand for.
So the community would fight back at this point.
Yes, the community would fight back. They do have a little festival there every year I don't know if you call it celebrate the event, but to document the event. They have a little Aurora Alien Festival there now. I know they did before the COVID. They'd had it a couple of years, so I'm sure they're probably going to have it again this year. And it draws a lot of people. They do little tours of the area where the windmill and the water tower were, and at the graveyard where the big rock marks his grave today.
Okay. I'm just a little floored. Like, I can understand that the community wants to keep the story going. I mean, that's good, easy tourism dollars. I get that. I wish my community would do that, because in 1988, there was one of the top UFO abductions that happened here. And I would love to see the community here do something about that, or how haunted it is being along the Gold Rush Trail. It's just, a lot of these communities don't take advantage of their strangeness or strange stories for tourism dollars. So I can understand now that Aurora is making money off of this, why they don't want to wreck the legend. That makes sense to me.
Right. And, and as time goes on and seats change on the city council, maybe they will change their mind. Maybe they will be like, okay, we're going to have a historic event here. We're going to exhume what's there and call in these anthropologists to do it in the correct fashion. They wanted to dig up John Dillinger to do DNA on him, because there's been all these rumors out there that it wasn't him that was killed, that it was somebody else, and they wanted to dig him up, but they ran into all kinds of obstacles with that. So it's just not that easy to dig up somebody or something that's been buried for nearly 100 years.
No, and I understand that, and I can understand the backlash towards that. So, I mean, I want to get to a question here from Tony in our chat room. And of course, now that I want to ask the question, I can't find the darn thing. There it is. He is asking, Kerry, what color was the ship? And obviously, we just explained what happened to it. It eventually went in a well and then off to a garbage lot, But what color was the ship?
Highly metallic silver. It was like bright aluminum, bright stainless steel. That was documented at the time.
Wow. How big was it again?
20 feet long, maybe 12 feet wide. It was a single alien craft, so it wasn't huge. It may not have been that big. It may not have been 15, 16 feet long at its longest point. It was almost egg shaped, almost football size shaped. It was described, a lot of the UFOs at that time were described as cigar shaped, but up in the air it was deceiving. It was I believe it was like almost football size shaped.
So basically, it's still the type of craft that we hear that we are still seeing today, or people are reporting seeing today as well.
Yes, the descriptions of the craft, the descriptions of the alien have not changed hardly at all from the 1800s even to reports today and through the 70s and through the 40s. That it's basically the same tribe, if you will, of extraterrestrials that visit from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Were there any other craft seen after that crash, maybe looking for their comrade that went down?
That's a good point. There were craft in the area shortly after this crash in Aurora, hovering, or that were reportedly hovering around, and I would assume that is exactly what they were doing, that they were looking for their fallen comrade. It was in the papers, in the Dallas and Fort Worth papers, that days after the sighting, there were several sightings in the very area that this crash had happened. So, yeah, probably.
All right, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Kerry Trent Haggard is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking about the 1897 Aurora, Texas UFO crash. We're going to continue on with Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear for 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Be right there, people. Hi, Brian X0067. How are you? The fires, Tony, are pretty much out here. We're doing pretty good on this end. We could get back into the forest now. One of my gifting sites was almost destroyed. Not by fire, but...
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
By safety logging. And, yeah, that was pretty intense when I pulled up there. Thanks, Ross Lambda. Peep away. Peep away. Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, if you guys have any bookings that you want to look at, you want to go to bookings at spacedoutradio.com or info at spacedoutradio.com, and Filth and Katie will take good care of you. So make sure you check that out. We love guest requests that you guys want to hear. Got about 2 minutes here. All right. No, I know one of my toys is missing, but I wasn't sure if that was taken out by the logging crew or whether it was taken by something else. That I do not know. I know that they stopped logging in that area about 20 feet from my gifting site. That's it. And a tree that they knocked down fell within 8 feet of it, if that. 7 feet, 6 feet. Yeah. Not happy about that. Good night, Devil Wolf. Big thank you to Black Dragon, Tessa in Australia, Ed Clador, and Noble Patrick for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you. And thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in tonight. We really appreciate you. You always have a safe home here at SOR. And thank you to all the regulars. Here we go, everyone. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking about the 1897 Aurora, Texas crash. And our guest tonight from the book Traveler, author Kerry Trent Haggard, is with us. And Kerry, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, telling us about this incredible case.
Just pleased to be there.
Well, we're glad that you're here, my friend. Very glad that you are here. Kerry, right before the break, we were talking about the crash, the body, the tourism, that they don't want to exhume anything. But one of the things that we started talking about was about whether or not this extraterrestrials' teammates or working aliens, if other craft were showing up to try and find this craft. And you said right before the break that there was certain things starting to happen.
It was reported that there were low-flying, hovering crafts in the area shortly after this. So I would not be surprised if, they were looking for him. They were trying to find their fallen comrades, so to speak. It just makes sense that that could have been.
Were there more craft spotted in the skies in the following days?
Yes, there were more craft spotted in the sky during that time. I know it was in. There was a lot of activity during that time, and so the Aurora crash was an isolated incident, but the UFO sightings through 1897, 1898 did not stop with that. There was a lot of UFO activity during that period in time, from 1896 to 97. It seems like all these UFO sightings come and go in waves. There's huge sightings for years, and then you may go decades with hardly any sightings. So I don't have the explanation for that, but it does seem that that's the way it goes.
Okay. So were there any other crashes in that area coinciding with this one?
Yes, there was one at a feed mill or a sugar mill, or no, some kind of mill that it crashed into the mill and burned up. There was several others. There were 17 incidents alone in that county that the UFO crashed in 1897. So these sightings were all over there.
How far away was that other crash site?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how far away the other crash site was.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So the fact that there were other UFO sightings, were people seeing the same type of craft that were in the area, much to the one that crashed?
Yeah, there was a lot of reporting going on that there were. Hang on one second. There we go. Little technical problem there. There was a lot of reporting going on that there was craft and incidents at the time. Yes.
Okay. Armando wants to know, what's your thoughts on the entire airship flap happening during this period?
Well, my thoughts are that for whatever reason, the extraterrestrials were very prevalent at that time and looking down upon the people of the time to see what they were doing and why they were doing. Different periods throughout time, they come and go and make their presence known. As far as the airships, there were only a couple of real airships at the time, so this was not a man-made craft that crashed. And these sightings that were, hundreds of sightings throughout Texas and Oklahoma at the time, they weren't man-made craft. They just couldn't have been. It was before the Wright brothers. It was before any type of air travel.
Right. Okay. So the fact that we are having these incredible sightings during a time when there was no aircraft made, what did people think that they were? Did they think they were angels coming down from the heavens? Did they believe that maybe it was demonic, that was demons and fallen angels coming down? Or did they actually believe that these were aliens from space?
It was pretty obvious that they were from another world, so to speak. It was reported in the newspaper that the man that crashed in Aurora was from Mars. He wasn't from Mars, but at the same time, that's the only relation that they knew to say. That was the way they related to the fact that he was not from their planet. So, yeah, they I don't know if they thought these were angels, demons. There's not a lot of historical background with that in mind. I'm sure some of these old religious folk at the time thought they were demons coming down to take them away, but I'm sure that was in the minority.
Okay. Let's get to a question from Michelle. She's down in Australia and asking, has there been instances of any other paranormal activity in or around Aurora or the crash site since this happened?
Not to my knowledge. This was an isolated incident, and nothing anywhere close to this magnitude has happened in that area since then. If it is, I've never heard anything about it, and I did quite a bit of research on the Aurora incident when I was writing my book.
All right, Sovereign wants to know, have you heard of any underground cities, bases, caves, or tunnels beneath the Aurora area?
No. Nothing like that I've ever heard of.
Did alien abductions increase once this happened in Aurora?
I don't know if there were any alien abductions even noted during this great wave of 1896-87. There was some sightings of landings and the extraterrestrials actually walking around, but I have never read an article that mentioned someone being abducted by these aliens at the time. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm not privy to anything like that.
What do we take out of this entire story?
Well, it's pretty cut and dry. A single alien had trouble with his ship. He crashed, he died, and they buried him in the local cemetery. It's really that simple. Like any traveler that, which by the way is the reason I titled my novel that. Like any traveler, even today, you have a breakdown on the road, you stop, you get a bite to eat, you get your vehicle fixed, and you get on your way. Well, he wasn't quite that fortunate. His crashed and burned and killed him. So that's where he come to rest.
For your book that you put out, Traveler, you take a mixture of what had happened in 1897, and then in certain parts of the books you fictionalize the story around it. Why did you go that route?
Well, I wanted it to be a fun and but at the same time historically accurate tale. What I did is I set it in 1997 with a reporter that basically does what UPI did in 1973. She's writing a column. She finds this old article, the original article, where this is the original article. A windmill demolishes it. Aurora, Wise County, Texas, April 17th. At 6 o'clock this morning, early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of an airship which had been sailing through the country. It goes on to say the airship crashed on Judge Proctor's property. The ship was built of an unknown metal resembling aluminum and silver and must have weighed several tons. The town is full of people today who are viewing the wreck and gathering specimens of the strange metal from the debris field. The pilot's funeral will take place at noon tomorrow. That's printed in the local newspaper. So in my book, she reads this. She's astonished. Her editor sends her over to Aurora to get the scoop on this. And the book goes back and forth from 1997 to 1897. The 1897 parts detail in great detail every aspect of the crash from the moment it happens to the way the people handle the situation, to the doctor that examines the alien, to the photographs on the boardwalk, to his funeral, and the hovering craft the day after looking for their fallen comrade. The 1997 sections tell the story of the fictionalized hunt for him 100 years later by this reporter. So, I didn't want to just write another UFO book with facts, because the facts on Aurora run out pretty quickly. You can only talk about the facts of Aurora so long before there's really nothing else to talk about. So I wanted to make it fun. I wanted to make it entertaining. I wanted to make it where people would be amused at the same time. But I wanted to make it historically accurate enough where people would get a sense of what truly happened in 1897.
Creating characters in order to kind of fit the timeline. How did you do that?
Believe me, it took a while. I created the sheriff. I created the drunk. I created the doctor. I told their stories of how they got to where they were. I created a lot of that to fill in the blanks of the story. It's like any good author that writes a novel. He has to his characters have to have life. They have to be alive. They have to have their own stories. You can't just say, the sheriff went here and did this. You got to put some character into this guy. So I spent about a good 3 years researching and writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting again until I finally got it to a point where I was happy with it. Philip Mantle over in England, Flying Disc Press, originally published it, and now it's back in my hands, and I'm working now to republish it in its second version on Amazon, which I hope to do in the next few days or week or two.
Well, very cool. Very cool. Okay. I want to get to the book on the fictional side of everything. When you take a real live story like the Aurora crash that we believe is true, and then you add some fiction to it, what kind of picture were you trying to paint with, to captivate a newer audience about, kind of this half and half book?
Well, the honest truth is, this was never meant to be a book. This was meant to be a screenplay. The whole idea was to make a movie about this and to capture the true the true story of what happened in Aurora, but make it in a way that is entertaining at the same time. There's been one other movie made about Aurora. The Most Horrible Thing You Ever Did See has nothing to do with the story, has no historical value at all. So, you just totally dismiss that one. I was trying to do something that really told the story of Aurora, but gave it a modern twist at the same time. And as I developed the screenplay, the more people that read it said, you need to expand this and make this into a book. This is a great story. And so I went back and spent another year expanding and creating, and until I finally got it where I was happy with the book format.
Okay. So getting back to the Aurora case here for a minute, a lot of people throughout history have defined this as a hoax. It goes back to 1980, where a Time magazine article with Edith Peggs, who was an 86-year-old resident, who claimed that people fabricated this entire story as a joke to try and get some interest in the town. The town was dying. It wasn't close to the railroad that was put in, and they needed something to garner interest. Did you ever look into that angle?
I did. It's just...
Experience gorgeous, lasting, high-quality hair color with Madison Reed. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code RADIO10.
After a long wait, it's finally time to get the family back together again, and nature is just a short drive away. Vrbo has thousands of private vacation homes where you can be miles away from everything but get closer to the ones you love. So whether it's a lake house with a grill, a cabin with a hot tub, or a chalet with a foyer, Vrbo has the perfect place for your family reunion. Download the Vrbo app. The time for getting back together is now.
Like Roswell being a weather balloon. Somebody out there is always wanting to debunk these happenings. I truly believe in, especially after I really started doing the research, that the Aurora incident did happen exactly the way I've been telling. They say that Roswell was a hoax, that it was a weather balloon, that it was all, just a great big hoax. We all know different than that. The 1941, I forget where, with the priest, they say, oh, that didn't happen. Well, it did happen. So, there's always debunkers out there that want to say, oh, that was a hoax, that never happened. My logic, one of my logic for that is, there was no benefit to the town. To come up with a UFO story like this, when there was no such thing, would not have made one bit of difference in that town, good, bad, or indifferent. This was an incident that happened. There were people in Aurora in the 70s when this came to light. They interviewed old people who were children at the time and whose mothers and grandmothers and fathers saw this and were absolutely astonished by what they saw. And these people remember that to this day. There were several interviews back in the 70s, and they interviewed these old people, and they wouldn't lie about it. They got no reason to. They got no motive. Anybody that wants to dismiss it, I would say, well, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree.
And I think that healthy skepticism from people helps. But, I mean, was the town dying at that point? Back in history?
The town was in terrible shape at that time. Just like a lot of other Western cities that had nothing going for them. You know, they were hoping that the railroad was going to build and come right through town, and at the last minute, the railroad went 20 miles in the opposite direction. So they didn't have that. A fire had broke out and burned down about a third of the buildings in the town, either that year or early, or the year before, like 1896, I believe. And there was a severe outbreak of spotted fever, which killed a lot of people. So yeah, the town had its share of tragedies going on, and then this happened. But this, it's not like somebody went in there to the rescue after this. It's not like it was a tourist spot after this. After the gathering to see the creature and his ship, everybody went home. It was done. It was over. So there's no monetary gain, I should say.
We've got 2 minutes to go before we're going to go to break. At the top of the hour, author Kerry Trent Haggard is with us talking about his book, Traveler, about the 1897 Aurora, Texas UFO crash. Now, I mean, back then, this was an honest, hard-working community, you know, that was struggling and with the railroad. What kind of expansion happened to this town after this event?
Yeah, absolutely nothing positive came out of this event. The town slowly recovered, but even today, the town doesn't have a red light. I think there's maybe 2 stop signs. It's just there's the sign on the highway doesn't even say Aurora at the turn that you get off. So it's a very, very small township that has never prospered very much. It's never been a popular spot. It's if you forgive my saying, it's just a little hole in the wall town. It was in 1897. It still is today.
My goodness. What's the population there today?
I don't know. I will look that up during the break.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, if people are still living this kind of story and this kind of culture and timeline, you know, in an area that, yes, we're more modern, but no, the area is still kind of a little bit regressive, you know, due to its farming and everything. I'm curious to see why people are still, you know, trumping on this story to bring people in, because obviously, it is working. Nonetheless, we have our good friend Kerry Trent Haggard here for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio as we are talking about the Aurora 1897 UFO crash. Oh, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. You can find his book, Traveler, online. We'll check it on out when we come back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, my friend, we got 6 minutes.
I found the population. It's 1,452 people.
It's less than my town.
1,452 people. The only significant incident ever in Aurora, Texas, is it's right here on the thing, is the alien. That's it. That's it. The only notoriety that town has had in all of its centuries is the alien crash.
Wow. That's the type of town where people just sit around and watch paint dry.
Yes, it is. I've been there. And trust me, if you don't know where you're going, there's nothing there to see. There's nothing there to see. There is a barbecue joint now. I saw it on something just in the last few days. There's Ned's Barbecue. They nicknamed the alien Ned. We'll save this for the next segment, but So then they call it Ned's Barbecue, where people UFO hunt, and UFO hunters do go there to eat the barbecue when they go to the graveyard.
Nice. Well, we'll get into that.
People flock to this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get into that when we come back. That's for sure. 100%.
All right.
All right. Bear with me here. That was trippy. All right. Getting feedback. Some reason why. There we go. Let's try that.
So you ever talk about gangsters or criminals or anything like that, or you just stick with UFOs?
No, we tap on every type of topic. I like some true crime every now and again.
Yeah. I like that kind of thing too.
Yeah, me too. It's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. We'll get into some audience questions next half hour. When we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, just stick with me through the commercial break, and then I will say a proper good night to you during the break, okay?
All right.
Bear with me here. Like this. That's good. That'll be our next question. Oh, I hit my wall. Alien Critter, is the snowblower ready to go? No, not yet. Not yet. I've got about 7 weeks before I need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Philip Matlock, the Philip Matlock, how are you? I don't even want to think about my snowblower yet, man. Give me a break. I'm just getting used to wearing socks again. I have swans flying over right now. Head south. That's nice. All right, we got about 1 minute here. I want to say a big thank you to Backspin, Black Dragon, Tessa, Ed, and Patrick for the amazing super chats. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. We are very much appreciative for all the super chats that we get, so thank you very much. Big thank you to all the veterans out there who are tuning us in and hanging out, having a good time. We love our veterans here. Make sure that, you always have a safe spot here with us. And, of course, to all our regulars coming on up and who are here each and every night, we love you and thank you for making this show so much fun. We're going to get ready with Hour 3. Of course, at the bottom, John Hudson will be here with the Unbiased UFO Report. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate your listening ears. We want to remind you that you can tune us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. You can check them out on our website. And, of course, we are digitally live on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yoiks! Yoiks is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, the author of Traveler, Kerry Trent Haggard, is our guest. We're talking about the 1897 UFO crash in Aurora, Texas, and everything that kind of goes along with it. Terry, welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Not a problem. We're going to start with some questions from our audience. Jim is asking, has the town ever recorded any ghosts of this alien walking around?
Not to my knowledge. And like I said, I have a friend that's very close to some people on the city council and sort of kind of represents them at some of the MUFON shows. No, never heard anything like that.
All right, let's move on to Chad Smith. Have you ever had any sightings of your own or any other experiences outside of when you were a kid?
We talked about that in great detail at the beginning of the show. I did see where a alien craft UFO had landed in my hometown when I was 9 years old. I didn't see the craft, but I definitely saw the aftermath of where it had landed. Other than that, no, I've never seen one up close. Never seen alien up close. Never. No.
Would you want to?
Well, that's one of them things that you really don't ask for it unless it comes to you, because you don't know the consequences involved.
Very true. Very true. How has your perception of ufology changed from when you started really getting into this and writing this book compared to what you see now with what's going on with the current state of ufology in the United States government?
Well, that fighter jet video opened a lot of eyes when that came out. I don't know whether that was an accident or it was actually something where they did that kind of sort of on purpose, where people would start realizing, okay, we've been lying to you since the 1940s. But I have had a lot of fun with the book and going to the UFO conferences. I did the Cherry Hill, New Jersey MUFON a couple years ago. I did the Laughlin, Nevada one a few years ago, and I've always had a good time at those. And people for the most part are sincere about this. They believe in this. They're dedicated to this. So as far as what's going on in the world today, they're not opening the doors to say, okay, here's everything that we know. They're never going to do that. I do think that the denial is a little less firm than it used to be. That's my perception of it.
I see. Okay. Jenny is asking, this kind of leads into Jenny's question. Where do you think these aliens are coming from?
I couldn't even begin to tell you that. I'm sure they're solar systems that they have found a way to get from here to there and back. These UFO sites, they didn't start in the 1940s. They didn't start in 1897. There's countless biblical references and depictions of flying objects and people flying in spacecraft. And so this has been going on. And there's so many theories of why and how and what and when, but this has been going on for thousands of years. So it seems like at certain times in history it's much more prevalent than others. I don't have an explanation for why.
Well, I'm going to butt in here with something totally off topic, because I read this comment in our chat room, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little jealous right now, Kerry, and you're probably going to be jealous too. Steve in Australia, who's listening to this show right now, while he's listening to this show, he's sitting on his deck, overlooking the ocean, watching a bunch of humpback whales splashing around.
Yeah, must be a good life.
I want to see that. I'm totally jealous over that right now. Totally jealous.
Yeah. Sounds like he's in a good spot.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. All right, let's go to Manuel's question here. What is the scariest encounter, paranormal, supernatural, that you have ever experienced?
Well, I wouldn't say scary, but I would say, if you want to talk about paranormal, something upsetting, I guess, and I hadn't thought about this in years and years and years, but my mom was pretty old school, wouldn't tell a lie to save my soul. And I went in one day, my house was pretty close to theirs, and I went over there just bebopping in as normal, and she was sitting on her bed crying. And I was like, what in the world is the matter with you? And she looked up at me and she says, Nanny came to see me. That was my grandmother. And she'd been dead for over a year. And my mom said she's been about 4 or 5 times recently. And I saw her as clearly as I see you. And I don't know what she wants. And that truly upset my mother. So that was kind of sort of shaking to me. I've never seen ghosts. I stayed in a ghost house once. There's a really cool house in Ohio, somewhere in Ohio. Gosh, I can't. You caught me off guard. Circleville, Ohio. There's a haunted house in Circleville, Ohio, that I stayed at in the 90s for a few days with a friend of mine. We were doing a car show in Xenia, Ohio, and it had a great story behind it of these 2 old sisters that used to play pranks on each other, and one old sister inhabited the house and literally caused the doorbell to ring all the time and this and that to happen. And it got so bad that the house is abandoned now and fell into ruin. And it's a really not...
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
Hello, beautiful. I'm Amy Errett, founder of Madison Reed, a hair color company I named after my daughter. Experience gorgeous, lasting, high-quality hair color made with ingredients you could feel good about, with consistent results every time. It's easy to find your perfect shade. Book a complimentary video hair color consultation with a licensed colorist on madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code RADIO10. That's code RADIO10.
It was a really nice Victorian 3-story fancy house, but I drove by it probably 6 months ago, and it's in total ruin now because nobody will go in there, because nobody will live there because of this old sister ghost.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Now there's a show for you, Circleville, Ohio. It's got quite the story behind it.
Ohio is just screwed up in general.
Ohio is just actually right over the road from me. I'm in western Pennsylvania, right on the Ohio-West Virginia border. So we do more business in Ohio than we do in Pennsylvania.
I know exactly where you are.
Yep.
Are you still in? Are you still in Beaver County?
Still in Beaver County. I've been here for about 5 years now. I love it here. I enjoy it here. I've got a nice life here now. I lived in Georgia most of my life, but I'm here now to stay, and we have a nice little business that we do, and so life's good to me right now. Getting back to one other thing, you were asking before, the population of Aurora, Texas today, or I should say 2019, 1,452 people. So, in 2010, it was 1,220 people. Back in 1897, I think it was 300 or 400 people. So it's never grown. It's never blossomed. It's still what'd you call it? You called it a one light town, or
you called it a one light town? Yeah.
Yeah, but what'd you call it? You called it a hole in the wall or something.
Well, something, and I mean that with all due respect.
I do too. I do too. I've had a couple of conversations with the people at the city council about this when I was writing my book, and they're just as nice as they could be. But there's nothing there but the barbecue joint we talked about.
I'd still like to try some of that barbecue.
Yeah, I would too.
Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie on that either. I mean, you're in a beautiful area there, though, of Beaver County, Pennsylvania, in the Monaca, the New Brighton area. There's good hockey rink.
Oh, you do know this area, then, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's a little pub. I
live in Monaca.
Okay, so you know the little pub on by the old trestle bridge called Thursdays.
I do.
I have been there numerous times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever get back over here, you got to let me know.
Before the new owners took over, my buddies used to hang out there all the time, and there was a Canadian flag hanging off the Labatt's Blue sign in there, and I'm the one.
Okay.
I'm the one who planted that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of friends in that area. It's real cool.
Okay.
Beautiful area.
It is.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to Chad Smith. He's got a question for you. Do you think, Kerry, that the crash may have any relation to the NIMSA Aircraft Society?
I do not know. I do not even know what that is, so I really couldn't comment on that.
I'm looking it up, too, because sometimes the audience knows way more than I do.
Right. Oh, I get it.
Well, apparently it's the air club that may never have existed. Apparently there was close to 60 members that they said were out there. It's only been seen in scrapbooks, part of the Sonora Aero Club, and it's one of legend from back in the day.
Okay. I really don't have any knowledge of anything like that.
Not a problem. Jenny is asking, have you ever seen or looked into the Men in Black?
No, no interest in that at all. I don't doubt it. There's been a lot of credible references to that, so I'm not surprised at all. But no, I'm not. That's not my thing.
All right. Sovereign is asking, why are you visiting all of these obscure small towns in the U.S.? What's your real mission? I think he thinks you're a spy.
Well, the truth is, when we visited Aurora, we did a little television show for a while called Wheels of the Past. We went around and filmed various antique cars around the country, like Babe Ruth's last Lincoln, John Dillinger's Hudson Essex Terraplane, Marilyn Monroe's Thunderbird. Some of our episodes are on YouTube under Wheels of the Past. We were passing by Fort Worth, and I had wrote the book Traveler several years before and never been to Aurora. So I jumped at the chance to stop for an hour or so at the cemetery and look around and kind of sort of do like thousands of other people do every year, pay tribute to the fallen alien while we were there. So it ain't like I trekked out there just for that. We just happened to be in the area, so we stopped by.
Gotcha. You know what I like about these small towns is every small town has its own fables, has its own legends and lore. I mean, up here in the Pacific Northwest, it's usually surrounded around Sasquatch or some sort of, in my area, it's the Gold Rush Trail. And
right.
And that's one thing I admire about you writing about this story. Even though you're not the first and probably won't be the last, I can appreciate the search in a small community and a small, all but forgotten town, and bringing their legend to life. I think if we as paranormal enthusiasts, using the word paranormal as an umbrella term here, need to be doing more of that to rescue some of these stories and these legends that are out there from small communities.
Yes, and like I said before, when I was researching this, and I called up Jim Mars, the foremost authority on the Aurora crash, before he died, he was thrilled to death that I was, and I told him, I said, "Now this is a novel. I'm not writing a dead fact." He didn't care. He was like, as long as you're not making a comedy out of it, as long as you're not spreading a bunch of untruths about it, he was just proud that someone was bringing attention to it, because there's so much attention to Roswell and some of these other. Oh, and you're talking about we live close to stuff. Kecksburg is just right over the road from me here in Pennsylvania, which you probably already know. But he was thrilled that we were bringing a little attention to the fact that there was an alien crash there in 1897 that's all but forgotten, that's all but dwarfed out by the supersonic following of Roswell.
Very true. Very true. And a lot of these cases, though, seem to get swept under the rug compared to these bigger, more popular cases.
Oh, yes. The one, the 1941 one, I still can't figure it out where the alien crashed and the preacher went over and realized they were aliens. I can't remember where that was, but that one's all but forgotten. There's several that nothing gets the publicity that Roswell gets. There's so many other small crashes and sightings and incidents around the country, but they're all dwarfed. Roswell dwarfs them all.
Yeah, I highly agree with you on that one. And it'll be interesting to see if Roswell comes to light here over the next little bit as as we look to continue this phase 2 of new ufology moving forward. I mean, that's what I'm interested to see, because I think if the doors to Roswell open up, a lot more doors are going to open up for a lot more of these cases, much like Aurora and Kecksburg.
Right, right, and with the even the possibility that there was one or two photographs taken in 1897 of the alien on the boardwalk, you know that there were hundreds of photographs taken at Roswell by the military. It would be nice if they would finally release a few of those where we could see what did happen.
Yes, fully agree. What would you expect to happen if that all of a sudden came out? One of those photographs.
I don't think it would. You know, in the 50s, you would have thought the nation would have been into a panic if you released that kind of information, which is one of the reasons that they hushed it up so much. I don't think today it would be a surprise at all to most people. I think most people have already, and I say most people, I shouldn't say most, many people have already come to the firm conclusion that we are not alone in this universe, and that it would be foolish to think that. So I just think it would be like, they lied the whole time, and they're finally coming clean. I think that would be more of the attitude than, oh my God, there's aliens are really alive, you know.
Well, we've got about 2.5 minutes left with you tonight, and I want to say thank you so much, Kerry, for coming on Spaced Out Radio and introducing our audience to the 1897 Aurora, Texas UFO crash. What interesting knowledge that you have gained and dug up regarding this. You need to be commended for that. Do us a favor. Can you tell everybody where they can find your book?
Well, it was published originally by Flying Disc Press. It was on Amazon under the title Traveler by Kerry Trent Haggard. And I am in the process right now of republishing it for its second run on Amazon myself. If anybody out there would like an autographed copy, if they would, they can go to my Facebook page, which is called Traveler. We do have a Facebook page, and it gets a little attention, and it has pictures from the book and highlights from the book. If they would like to go there and let me know that they want an autographed copy, I'd be more than glad to send them one. And in the future, it will be back on Amazon, hopefully pretty soon.
Well, that's really cool, and I hope we can get you on there. I know some people in our chat room, we ask almost every guest this, and some people on our chat room want me to ask you, well, what is your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I love it. It's a treat for us to have breakfast for dinner.
Well, I'm glad this show is almost over. Come on. Breakfast foods are for breakfast, my friend. Breakfast foods are for breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little sticky on that one, but you know what? I really appreciate you coming on in here, my friend. It's been a great opportunity for us to get to know you, and hopefully my audience will go on out, find your Facebook page called Traveler, and pick up your book. Get it signed, because there's nothing more exciting than an autographed book. So we would appreciate that. So, Kerry Trent Haggard, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Really do appreciate you, my friend, and have a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, Kerry Trent Haggard, everybody. Coming up next, the Unbiased UFO Report. Fedora John, yes, John Hudson, will be joining us momentarily after the break. Then we got Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, the thought of the day, and then we'll take it home. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great show, my friend. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad I'm glad you approved. I enjoyed it. I've done several of these, and some have went much better than others. I thought this one went really well.
Good. I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment.
All right, and if you ever get back down this way, you be sure and look me up, okay?
All right, my friend. You take care. I got to go get ready for our news, and thank you for helping us out tonight.
All right, thank you.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Great guy. Great guy. Really appreciate him. That's a fun story. Man, wouldn't you want to exhume that body? Think about it. How can you not want to exhume that body? Hi, D. Swiger. How are you? Dirt Road, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really do appreciate that. Dry Toast, best name in YouTube land right there. Dry Toast. There's our man Super Quest. Back from holidays. Happier than ever. Yeah, Sonia's still in recovery from her week-long Vegas trip. There's Stetson John. That was a fun show, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
Fun show. Terrible Times, how you doing? I actually called you Fedora John. I got it right.
I'm impressed.
I know. I'm pretty happy with myself right now too. It's one of the
when Bob told me about that, I was like, man, I don't care how good or bad a nickname is. Those kind of habits are really hard to break.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. I'm still a little pissed off right now, man.
What? Yeah, are you talking about your
the election
your
up here? The election.
Yeah, I was gonna send you a message, man. I'm really sorry about that. I don't really know enough to have an opinion, but I know what it's like to feel very strongly about a candidate and have them, not go the way you want to. Trust me, it's. I think we have a lot of Americans in down south of you that can really empathize with your situation.
Oh. I could go off.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that I think you guys are facing a similar problem that a lot of countries are facing, where you get populations in very dense pockets, and every vote matters. You shouldn't lose your vote shouldn't mean less if you're in a dense population, but at the same time, it creates this imbalance where these small pockets of territory can influence a very, very large amount of territory. And so it's a real challenge.
You know what? Metro Toronto area has 8 million people in it. There are 53 ridings in that area of Metro Toronto. There are
and just to put that in context, people, we're talking about a country that has slightly less people than the state of California. Right, so 8 million from a reference point is a huge swath of the whole population of Canada.
Just to give you an example here, all right, there are, let's see here, okay, Saskatchewan alone, okay, has, oh shoot, I just accidentally erased that. Son of a gun. How many federal ridings in Alberta? Let's say Alberta. Okay. Metro Toronto has 53 ridings. The entire province of Alberta has 34.
Yep. I know. No, I'm not familiar with Canadian government as much as I should be. We have, the whole reason we have a House and the Senate is because one is based on population and one is based on a state. So each state gets 2 senators, but how many representatives you get in the House is based on your population. So there is a teeny bit of balancing, at least it was intended. Do you guys have anything like that?
No.
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying that they did actually try to accommodate for the two different.
I am so grinding my teeth. Hello, beautiful Anne Celine from KPNL. How are you? Justin S. Good to see you, and thank you for that $2 super chat. Really do appreciate that. We're going to get going here in 5 seconds. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time once again where we talk some UFOs with the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Yes, a couple times every week, John comes in to bring us the latest in the UFO news that's happening around the world. And John, I'm pretty excited about this first one, because if outside of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the one movie I always tell our listeners to listen to is the 1986.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
Unlike other automakers, we at Ford don't think you should need a 20-minute tutorial to open your glove box. So we made our technology easy to use by making our vehicles available with Blue Cruise hands-free driving, Sync 4, and the Ford Pass app. And the best part? They just work. Built for America. Built Ford proud.
Optional features listed.
Disney Flight of the Navigator, because that movie is so ahead of the times. You know what I recently found out, thanks to our listeners? The boy's name in the Flight of the Navigator is David Scott.
Oh, how funny.
I never knew that. He's got a last name, but David is his first name, Scott is his middle name. Mine, David, my middle name's Scott.
Wow. No, I mean that movie, that movie, and there's actually another one that I put on a similar level called Explorers, that actually starred Ethan Hawke as a child, as well as oh man, I can't remember the kid's name now. But anyway, it has some major stars in as kids, and they learn how to make a bubble from dreams from aliens. And they build a funny looking ship, and they put it in the bubble, and they actually fly away to an alien planet, and they meet some aliens. And it's actually an amazing film, and it's very different in the same way that Flight of the Navigator is different. But Flight of the Navigator was a much shinier, I think much more realistic. It's amazing how, and that movie is so well done. I actually, my 4-year-old daughter sat through that whole movie glued to the screen, just like, I mean, it's good.
You know what I like about it is, when that movie came out in 1986, okay, yes, E.T. had come out, yes, Close Encounters of the Third Kind to come out, and maybe a couple other movies that really didn't have the same type of impact as E.T. and Close Encounters. But this movie was so far ahead in the research times. No ufologist back then was studying consciousness. Okay, today we hear about people who claim to fly craft with their minds. What happened in that movie? Young David steered that, compliance, with the alien in there, which was a robot, with his mind. And wherever his mind wanted to go, that's where they went. And you take so many aspects of that movie. You take the way the ship reformed itself, the material the ship was made out of, the artificial intelligence inside, the mission of the ship, the brain control of the ship, the time lapse and time differential aspects of the script, the danger that might create to certain higher life forms versus not lower life forms, the rules the AI had to apply. I mean, there were so many aspects of that movie that were way beyond what anyone was talking about. And I've never had a chance to research it. I am incredibly confident that there was someone involved in that movie that was doing some real research. I don't know if it was real research or they were tipped off, because Disney's big enough to have that kind of pull. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't made by Disney.
Well, didn't they pick it up?
They did. Actually, I just found this out today. They didn't. It wasn't actually made by Disney. It was made by a small little production company that had only done 2 other movies that were hits, and they ended up going out of business. And that's why Disney had so much trouble getting the rights to remake the movie, because they had trouble getting the rights back. They were the distributor. They didn't actually make the film.
Well, either way, I mean, the amazement of that, from missing time to alien kidnappings to everything. I mean, the way the ship can change form from a teardrop to a saucer type of craft. I mean, everything that movie is talking about now is the research that somebody like Grant Cameron is doing today.
Dead on.
And it's 35 years.
And if you think about it, like, in many ways, what is that ship? It's a von Neumann probe. Right? In many ways. I mean, so many people are talking about this idea of sending AI probes to different places. That's exactly what that thing was. I mean, it was a probe. It was a very fancy, very funny, with a great sense of humor probe.
And they're remaking this movie.
Yeah, and they're remaking it, and it's and one thing that's not clear is I'm thinking it's just going to be a movie. I don't think it's going to be like a miniseries or several episodes. But the really interesting thing about it is the woman who's directing it has just come off of directing an episode of the new Boba Fett series. She directed 1 or 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and she's also the daughter of Ron Howard.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, and she's acted in several films. You've seen her. She played. She was in Spider-Man. She was in a bunch of things, but now she's focusing on directing, and she comes from some very good directing roots.
Yeah, Ron Howard, obviously. She has better hair than her father. Let's put it that way.
She does. Oh, she's got beautiful red hair.
She's got Samantha Mowat type hair.
Yeah. But she's a fantastic director. I mean, she has an incredible eye for cinematography, and so I think between her skills, her recent experience, and the clout she pulls, I think this has a chance of being a really it's got a really good chance of being a great film.
All right, well, I'm going to keep my eye open for this, because I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. I mean, wow. This movie, if you have not seen the original Flight of the Navigator and you're into ufology, you have to watch that movie.
Oh, yes.
You have to.
Must.
It is a must-watch on my list. Like, people talk about other movies that are out there. I think if you take away the CGI of everything and you go back to 1986 with this one, my top 2 UFO movies are Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Flight of the Navigator. And Flight of the Navigator is a definite must-see if you are into UFOs, because
and they hold up well.
Yes.
I'm amazed how well the Flight of the Navigator holds up. I mean, it still it doesn't look cheap the way some other sci-fi films do now.
Absolutely. Let's hope that they can do it some justice, because there's a lot of truth in that one.
And one more thing, this one, they're swapping out the main character. This one will have a female lead.
Well, either way.
No. I just think it's going to be, that puts a different slant on it, which will be fun. It'll make it a little more unique and a little more different, and different interpretation to a degree. But it shows they're putting a lot of energy and thought into this. So I'm excited.
All right, let's move on to another topic, because Tom DeLonge's now making a movie.
Yes, well, you remember this is the intended fruit of the TTSA entertainment wing, right? Was to make movies, and this movie is Monsters in California. Originally had a 2021 date, and now we're hearing more like 2022. The movie is done. Now it's a matter of distribution and so forth. The movie. It's. I mean, I have to admit, it's not the most original plot line, but I actually do like the stories that he's written. The two books that he's helped AJ Harley write. I think they're interesting stories. So I'm hoping it'll be similar to that. But it's basically about a teenager who start investigating some happenings and start uncovering a unknown government secret about UFOs. So it's the way he phrased it. He said it would be like if Spielberg back in the day had made an R-rated indie paranormal film. That's how Tom actually described it. But the other interesting thing was, this is another interview done by Spin, and while the writer did say that they talked about UFOs, this article had zero mentions. This is the first article I've read with Tom DeLonge in it in a long time that had, other than mentioning the movie, there was absolutely zero mention of UFOs throughout the entire article. It was a pure music article. That surprised me. Yep.
Do we know who's acting in it? Who Tom has got available?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't know off the top of my head, but if you go to the IMDb page for the movie, you can see the entire cast. All their headshots are in there with their names and characters they play and everything. Because the movie's done.
Now it's just a matter of getting it released.
Yep.
Is it going to go major box office, or is it going straight to Netflix or Amazon?
My impression is that they're going for big box office. So one of the things that the writer said is that if the buzz and the energy behind this film pays out, that his future films will not have any funding issues.
Well, we're going to see. As Mr. DeLonge gets into the movie game. It's a big game. It's a tough game. Let's wish him well. I've been pretty hard on him. But let's wish him well.
I wish him all the best. Yep. He did make a funny comment about the fact that the movie industry is nothing like the music industry.
No kidding. Well, when you're once on top of the music industry like he was, there's a lot of people catering to what you want. And then when you fall off that ladder, there's a lot of catering to those people you need to have.
Yes, sirree. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I wish him all the best.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's move on to another topic here. And once again, metamaterials in play, this time in Denmark for the Terahertz Technology Center. What does this mean, and why does this matter?
So this is an interesting one to me, because these are initially unrelated stories. Okay, what you have is a university in Denmark opening up a new terahertz technology center. So it'll be a center that is dedicated to terahertz technology development. Things like, for example, the ability to generate terahertz radiation, terahertz frequencies. We've only been able to do it fairly recently, and they're very, very large devices. So shrinking them down is one of their goals. Looking for new ways to apply terahertz radiation to communication, to medicine. It's basically going to be it's a fostering of that. It's an advocacy of that technology. But where it applies to us, and where I think is interesting, is that if you look at that very famous sample that most of us have seen, the one that's layered of bismuth and magnesium over and over and over again. And just for those that don't know, it's a wedge that has 26 layers, and basically it alternates magnesium and bismuth, and the bismuth is only 1 to 4 microns thick, and the magnesium is 100 to 200 microns thick. And so this is something that we would have trouble doing because it's hard to get them to bond. They tend to shear off of each other. And we've had this sample since 1940. And Dr. Hal Puthoff, one of his hypotheses is that the reason why this piece of metal is made this way is because it could be, or he believes it likely is, a terahertz waveguide. Meaning that if you made walls out of it, you could use it to actually channel terahertz frequencies. Okay, but this was hard to test because we didn't have anything that generated terahertz, radiation. And my personal hypothesis is that this is the reason why the CRADA happened, was because the Army does have the ability to create terahertz signals, and I don't, TTSA couldn't get that kind of equipment, and so I believe that's one of the reasons why they did the CRADA. But what it shows is that there's sometimes you need science to progress in the outside world for completely different reasons to generate the kind of science we need to then come back into our world and really figure out what's going on and how this stuff works and why it works that way. And so it just shows that there is a relationship between the progress of science, that sometimes the lack of progress in science is actually what's slowing down our research because we don't have the tools available to us to figure out how these things work or why we have them.
Are these the same pieces of metamaterial that we were calling arts parts?
That I don't know. I believe that at times it has been called that, but I've never been able to find out if that was actually true or not, because the impression I had at one point was that Puthoff got a hold of this sample through some other means, that it wasn't part of arts parts. But I completely could be wrong. I don't know that for sure. I do know that this was recovered from the 1940s.
Okay, so do we know what crash site then? Is it
No.
Roswell? Is it something else?
It's not been released where the crash site was from.
Because the picture they use is that triangular shape that
Correct.
TTSA.
Yep. It's pretty.
And I believe
it's pretty.
And I believe that's the one they got from Linda Moulton Howe.
It's possible. It is. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. It's totally possible. It's totally possible. I just, for some reason, the pictures I've seen of arts parts before, I didn't remember one of them being that pretty. And I've always thought the sample that Hal Puthoff shows is like, it's beautiful. I think it's really pretty. So I may be just misidentifying it, but it's definitely one of the older parts that have been floating around. Other people, this same sample, Jeremy Corbell did a bunch of testing on it multiple years ago. Several people have had it and done testing on it over the years.
Right. All right, John, thank you so much for a wonderful UAP report once again, and we'll talk to you in a couple days' time. Let's get to the news. Shirky Poo is waiting.
Thanks, sir.
The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the completely creepy. A homeowner was shocked to find a rag doll and a chilling note hidden behind a wall in his new home. Jonathan Lewis had just picked up the keys to his new place in Liverpool when he decided to check out what was inside the little space beneath the stairs that had been boarded up. See, this already seems a little creepy, doesn't it? Well, primary school teacher Jonathan started to bash through the wall and discovered an innocent-looking little rag doll wearing a pinstripe dress. But the cute doll was holding a very spine-chilling note, which claimed the doll had killed the previous owners. Lovely. The note read, "Dear reader, new homeowner, thank you for freeing me. My name is Emily. My original owners lived in this house in 1961. I didn't like them, so they had to go. All they did was sing and be merry. It was sickening. Stabbing was my choice of death for them, so I hope you have knives. Hope you sleep well." I'm getting goosebumps just reading this thing. And the handwriting is it's printed, and it looks like to be around, 11, 12-year-old girl style printing. This is just creepy. Jonathan goes on to say, I've just bought the house and I got the keys on Friday. I kind of knew there was this void underneath the stairs that had been plastered and boarded up. There was a wire coming out where the previous owners had the fridge, but I didn't know where the wire was plugged into, so I thought I would knock through the plasterboard a little bit, and this is what I found. I knocked through the hole and saw about the size of a fist, shone a light in, and there was the doll sitting there. Now, thankfully for Jonathan, who presumably doesn't want to be stabbed to death by the possessed doll, the whole thing appears to be a prank. The real estate agent has since told him the kitchen was only redone around 5 years ago, meaning the doll was most likely placed in there then. He added, some of my friends have told me to put my house back on the market and move the hell out of there. But I think it's just a laugh. Yeah, that's until you're murdered, Jonathan. It's until you're murdered. Just saying. Very cool story here, my friends. A 90-year-old veteran combat pilot returned to the cockpit of a T-33 fighter jet for the first time in 65 years at an air show in Wisconsin. Clyde Bridger, who flew combat missions in the Vietnam War, took control of a T-33 fighter at the Oconto Elks Fly-In, a celebration of Oconto J. Douglas Baker Airport's 75th anniversary. I feel like a teenager all over again. There's not very many times that you see somebody, especially my age, even getting into one, much less doing the flying. Stephen Jones, the owner of the plane, served as a safety pilot during Bridger's flight and boarded the aircraft with the veteran at Executive Air in the Austin Straubel International Airport. He flew it better than I did, Jones said. Congratulations to a proud veteran. Samuel Adams getting in trouble with their latest brew of beer. Yeah, it's $240 per bottle. Bears another notable distinction. It's illegal in 15 states. Samuel Adams said the 12th version of Utopia's brand, which the brewery rolls out every 2 years, will roll out on October 11th at a price of $240 for a 25.4-ounce bottle. It contains 28% alcohol. Oh, that's going to get a buzz on, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Thought of the day for today. Tell me why your favorite historical UFO case is, and why. Mark, Aztec, largest official investigation in landing marks. Monkey gun music. An unknown, I was told back in the 90s, of a guy who hit a UFO with his car. He was asked by the mechanic the day after, what did you hit? A force field? Being the head teacher of a local school, he didn't want to admit to hitting a UFO. No photos, unfortunately. John, Night of the Triangles in Wales. Several different shaped nuts and bolts crafts seen right across the country. Nick, Phoenix Lights. Nothing made on this earth could be so big and fly. Mark, it's got to be Rendlesham Forest. Jeff, Ariel, it is the most convincing case that some kind of phenomenon really does exist. Dan, Shag Harbor, due to the number of witnesses, duration of time, military involvement, and it was observed underwater. It's got it all. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the news, everyone in the Thought of the Day, John for the UFO report, and Kerry Trent Haggard talking about Aurora 1897. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
Life can be overwhelming, but help is here. Gulfport Behavioral Health System is your treatment provider for mental and behavioral health issues. For nearly 40 years, we've helped adults, adolescents, and children as young as 4 find the coping skills to get back on track. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hope starts here. Visit gulfportbehavioral.com to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
Experience gorgeous, lasting, high-quality hair color with Madison Reed. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code RADIO10.